On the mobile app, it's just as easy. Tap the live chat button right under the video to open the window. Pro tip, if you're in full screen mode, tap the screen once and hit the chat icon to see messages without leaving the action. Can't type? Check 2 things. Make sure you're signed in and see if subscribers only mode is on. You might need to sub and wait a few minutes. Keep it respectful, follow the mod's rules, and have fun.
Good day. Good day. Frankly speaking, it's a season when thousands of our 11 and 12-year-olds are celebrated for their performance in PEP, marking their movement to high school. Frankly speaking, Shani Coke, also called Kaja, was brutally robbed of the opportunity of getting even to that early mark of finishing primary school at Troy Primary Trelawny. A brute cut her life short with the violence of rape and a machete that almost severed her head. It's an awful crime, but frankly speaking, neither the nature nor the savagery of it is unusual in Jamaica. And that's part of why we are here today talking about the tragedy in Troy. The state and NGO agencies responsible for children, the CPFSA, Hear the Children Cry, and the Office of Children Advocate, among them, have had their say condemning the rape and murder of the 10-year-old Shani. So too the Minister of Security, Horace Chang, and the opposition PNP and spokesman. And again, as a nation, we wring our hands. We have with us today 2 people whose work make them fit to help us think about the Jamaican society. Psychologist and social philosopher, and many other things, Dr. Lakem Samaj, and the head of Children First, Claudette Richardson Pius. But before we go to them, welcome to you all. Thanks for joining us. We encourage your feedback during the show. Send your questions and comments to the space provided on YouTube or using the procedure outlined earlier. Please like and share the podcast and subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Winnie Anderson Brown, regular panelist. Desmond is not with us today. No, I don't think Mrs. Pius is with us yet, but we want to start off by asking Dr. Samaj. Dr. Samaj, what do you think? What were your thought processes when you heard first of this latest incident of evil?
Part of my own mental health, I do not immerse myself in daily news. It's one important stress relief, You just don't allow yourself to be programmed by it because, 2 radio stations and the TV stations and the print media had contacted me for a comment, but I neglected to do so because what they wanted was a sound bite. And this we have something and just have a sound bite and then life goes on as usual. Why accept this invitation? Because clearly there will be more time to think and talk through the whole issues and all the things surrounding this. So, every chance like this is for us to educate the nation to a large extent. For example, I have written an article about it, and I did a YouTube video, 1 hour, and the kind of feedback I've been getting, the amount of people who have called, have shared with me their own experiences. One man told me something that I found a little hard. that he was in some environment some time ago, and some pastor pointed out to him that in any gathering of 10 women, at least 6 have had some form of sexual molestation from childhood coming up. And he said at least 7 men have been involved in some form of, and even in my own work, I can share a number of instances that a lot of persons who literally, yes, it wasn't as tragic because somebody was not killed, but women who are now grown and establishing what they're doing, but what happened to them as children? And in the most, some of them are in the most unthinkable context. Like one was sharing with her that, sharing that there was a visiting pastor when she was in primary school, and he would actually overnight at her parents' house. And literally, the pastor, the visiting pastor, tried to, you know, sexually assault her in the middle of night. You know, and it is something that she has lived with. She didn't say a thing to her parents at all. So that's a more common kind of situation where it is not shared with anybody, these incidents. So that the opportunity from this now is for us to help the nation to better understand what this is all about, and to program it, and to understand how we can protect our children. The need to.
But you said at the start about how we have sort of normalized it after a point. There's just a little discussion and we move away. What is the reason for that? Why is it not? Why does it not disgust and revolt us and make us feel revulsion for a much longer period? And we become tolerant of it.
I think one of the reasons is that because how common it is at a broader level. How many persons have survived it and living with the long-term consequences, and how many men and women who have perpetuated their own aspect of it. So in Jamaica, you know, we don't talk about certain things, you know, unless it slaps us in the face, because you have to admit your own part, what you did in the past, or even what happened to you in the past. The memories come back. So that it's important for me. Part of the role of media is to not allow these things to be 9-day wonders. At least coming out of it you can't redo the case, you can't bring back the child, but you can, coming out of this, there'll be some serious lessons, what parents can do, what teachers can do, what all caregivers, what all of us can do in our own communities.
So this is not a matter of government responsibility. This is not a matter of getting the registry of sexual offenders. This is a community matter, this type of issue?
Absolutely, to a large extent. Let me give you a quick example. A couple years ago, I was a guest speaker at the Jamaica Association for Children with mental disabilities or something like that. And I had to leave early after my speech, and a woman ran me down in the parking lot and said she wanted to share something with me, that she had a mentally disabled child who was about 15, and she found out that her boyfriend had been sexually assaulting the child. Now, here's a child of limited mental capability, so she can't really, you know, function normally. Now, when she found out, she went to the police and she reported her boyfriend to the police. It took months before the police actually did anything.
Yeah.
No, that's the kind of backstory. Boy, we can't find him, we don't know where him there and all of that. Even after that, he was arrested. She said, Dr. Samash, every time I went to court, the police said they can't find him, they don't know where it is. And so what made it worse? She was a domestic helper. So every time she went to court,
She lost
she lost
the
a
day
day's
pay.
pay.
Mm.
So to understand what, and the data tells us that when we have the kind of general story, the notion about people molesting children is not some bogeyman in general in a trench coat in the dark and so on. The vast majority of this takes place with family members, close friends of the family, somebody in the community. And at some point, we can talk about grooming, how you start to condition the child with the gifts and so on and thing, and how this process is why children don't say anything to anybody because of all the complications in their mind. So it is deeper and wider and broader than we think. And then one of the things I want to make sure we do early is define the concepts.
Right.
Pedophilia is a psychological, psychiatric state which describes sexual attraction, what your sexual programming is. That by itself is not a crime because many people who have that programming don't necessarily act on it. Acting on it now, having sex with prepubescent children is a crime. If it is in a family context, it's now incest.
Yes.
If it's a non-related person now, it's just sexual assault. So we need to broaden the context. Now, there are many communities where open secret in terms of the pedophilia, in terms of incestuous behavior, open secrets in many.
I want to come back to that, and I thank you for helping us with the definition there. Thank you very much. And I want to introduce Claudette Pius, Richardson Pius. Claudette, welcome to you. We've been talking a little bit. When you heard it in this news, what was your overwhelming emotion, Mrs. Pius?
Well, I was very angry, and for me, I'm saying one more time, what are we waiting for? We've been toying with the sex offenders registry. We've been keeping secret in the community. We've been playing around for too long. One more, how many more?
Are you with us?
Because you can imagine that based on my work, I sometimes come across situations, yeah? And I have no qualms about calling the police. And sometimes, there have been situations where the community comes against me because I'm too determined, I'm too strong. You know the whole thing of informer for dead. And it's very alive and well in some of these communities. And you wouldn't believe that when it comes to the abuse of a child, if that would still exist, but it does.
Yes.
Why is that? Why do you think that there is that? I call it almost a tolerance, like if somebody was just talking about open secret. But why is that? Why?
I wrote an article some time ago which got a lot of responses. Jamaica does not really have a crime problem. What Jamaica has is a culture problem.
Yes.
Amen.
There are two other things that are embedded in our culture.
Yes.
That we need to talk about. For example, Jamaica has an expression that says, cousin boil good soup.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Cousin boil good soup. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And me first must pick the cherry.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. And in the church setting, there are those who say they use this scripture, the husbandman must be the first partaker of the fruit. All of that.
So we have those kind of things tied into the culture,
But sir,
I want to share two other. Well, there's two other levels that I want to share it with that we need to. I've done a lot of work in terms of parenting, and in terms of especially male figures and parenting boys and so on. But let me tell you something about male figures and girls. What the data says, a girl growing up in an environment where there is a lot of men in close contact. Just think of your mother's boyfriend or some man in the same tenement yard. A young girl growing up in an environment where there are men to which she's not biologically connected. Her body responds in a very interesting way.
Yes.
She menstruates earlier because it's as if her body picks up the environment and so on. No, if the men in that environment don't know their role as a man, that for me as a man, all children are my children. I have a responsibility. So you hear, say, boy, and not really my daughter, She technically is not my daughter, and so on. She put question to me, so that they don't understand this whole process, what the body does, and so on. And once you act on an urge, every urge is not to be acted on. Some urges are to be, in fact, most urges are to be resisted. And that's where socialization comes in. So we're not doing enough of that kind of discourse, on the cultural level. So, for example, I even broaden it. My estimate is that 75% of our children, the word that announced their present is a woman saying to a man, I miss my period, And then the man said, "Where are telling me that for?" Because there was nothing in their discussion a priori that we are building a family. We are going to have children. Boy, I'm like, you look good, your body hot, So we have a whole heap of work to do.
Before we go any further, Franklin, let's acknowledge Called Out Radio. Yes, who has sent greetings. First, greetings, Franklin, and then greetings to everyone. Yes.
Thank you, and we welcome your comments as we go on. Claudette Paz, before we have a little video of the father, like I was speaking just now about every man being a father. That concept of I'm the father of all of these children around here. But before we go on, I just want to show you the reflection of a father in grief. Ashton Coke, I'm sorry, store owner. Speaks of his daughter. Let's listen to him for a second. It won't take long. Less than 2 minutes.
Very sad occasion. Okay. Original truck driver named Junior Coke from Trelawny. Otherwise, everyone know me differently on driver's license. Aston Alfonso Coke. Lost my child yesterday evening. Her name is Shani. Most people call her Kaja in the neighborhood. She currently was attended Troy Prime School.
Some volume, Joshua.
She's on summer break, so she's home. Unfortunately, her grandmother sent her to the shop and she did not make it back home. Someone stopped her on the street and disturbed her somehow until they slashed her throat. We found her in the night. But she was loving and caring. Young community growing up, everybody knows her. She knows everyone, by full name. She can see you, call you by your first name and last name. That's how curious she is. And she have a sense of humor. She go to school, she learns well, she get a lot of stuff, her education background, academic awards, stuff like that. She do what she has to do because she just decides that she wants to make something out of herself once she grew up, because we try to drive that into her head. But things just had happened overnight because of this pervert, who always going back and forth to prison for actually the same thing. But this time, he take the strike out on my daughter. And it was very, very weird this time because he slashed her throat. And never seen anything like this for such a baby. It's an act of what never should happen into this neighborhood just because of his own father. His father
Right. Thank you. I'm not sure everybody heard most of what he said because it was a little bit low in parts. But he was just speaking about a little child who loved, who was around him, who was bright, who was doing things. And later on, we'll talk a little bit about what he felt about justice.
Okay.
But like in Samaj, you and Claudette Paz have been talking about this societal things. Where do we start? Because you could have had the same discussion 10 years ago. You could have had it last year when the little child was stuffed, killed and raped and stuffed into the barrel in Spanish Town. And a little girl who was killed on the road coming from school alone a year ago in St. Catherine. And the incidents are many. You could go back. You could go back to so many of them. Where do we start?
The killing is the tip of the iceberg. There are many other girls and boys who are
I'm happy you mentioned boys, because we should not forget the boys.
And let me tell you, let me give you something more to be concerned about. For the last decade, the American Psychiatric and Psychological Association are nibbling at how to get pedophilia taken off the DSM. How to rationalize pedophilia as not a sexual disorder. So, but that's for another program. They have been nibbling at this for the last 2 decades because of persons who, with such predilections, would like to justify their behavior.
Yes.
They figure it can be in the best interest of the child too. But let's not even, I'm just warning you that that is coming from the highest authority in terms of psychiatric and psychological definitions and functioning. But you see, public education, one of my mantras over the year, media is not doing enough of what it is supposed to do. Media is probably the only way. If the number of Jamaicans who read newspapers is almost non-existent.
Social.
And even in terms of how they get information, even now the bulk of information is gotten from social media, and the bulk of it from things like TikTok, and the attention span is 10 to 12 seconds. So we have to find a way to start getting that information in ways to break through and break past some of the misconceptions in our society. I mean, the longest, look, I mentioned a couple of them earlier. What about the one that if you have a venereal disease?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You just find a young girl. Yes.
I need that every day in my work.
Yes. Young girl.
Yes. HIV and syphilis testing, and big grown people coming with the story. And
so that the culture needs some serious work. Serious work.
Yeah. But Claudette Paz are going to ask you the same thing I asked Dr. Samaj. Where do we start? Where do you suggest that we should start?
Look here. We need to look at that sex offenders document. I don't see why we copy other things and we can't find the best practice to put it in on the books in a way that it will help. I also think that we need to really do some serious public education around the whole thing of child rights and child safety. And the community have to come back to a stage where we have responsibility for the children. I mean,
all of us.
Listen to the lady talking about how this man trying to pop down her door in Troy. Yeah? And she go to the police station 10 times. And nothing. Fine, go to another police station, call the Justice of the Peace, call the MP. We have to get really, really serious. And
who is to? And we say we have to get serious. And who is to start that? Where is it to start, Lekem Samaj? Where is it to start?
First of all,
you're consulting on a lot of things. Where would you suggest we start?
We start with right where we are. in our country. See me, anywhere I am and I see a group of men talking, and I hear some arms house argument, me bite out. I say, gentlemen, you can't do that. You can't do that. Every one of us have to start where we are. Anywhere we have influence, because look, when it gets to even the point of the registry, you know, that's way down the wicket. I'm talking about how do people deal with their sexual urges and desires? Huh? How do you do that? We are not dogs. We have agency. We know we have the capacity how to direct our urges, to control and contain ourselves. But if we have a music that is bordering on, that has, as far as I'm concerned, our dominant music has passed the line of eroticism and is almost pornographic now.
Yes, not almost. Some of it definitely is.
No, and it is. We're not hearing any pushback about the music.
We're hypocrites.
Yeah. So we have to, and we're being silent to that. So we have to, at every instance, we have the whole sexualization of the culture, the sexualization of young children,
products, everything.
Yes.
So that we have to start pointing it out at what we saw with the event that have us here is the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds, if not thousands of
not reported.
And it's not reported.
Not
even to their parents. Not even the parents know about it.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And you don't talk those things.
I had a case some years ago where a man came to me, and the good thing about it is almost that he recognized what was happening to him. And he described his background in terms of his mother was a school teacher and a principal and very strict. And the way he had his own personal sexual arousal pattern. The term for it, which I had to help him understand, is the Madonna whore complex. He sees women in these two extreme positions. Here was a man, college educated, but here what now? He's teaching at a secondary school. Now, his sexual urges are satisfied by him going somewhere below Harbor Street. At the more seeded the location is, the more enjoyable for him. You understand? Now, what he was struggling with now is that the girls in the school put in question to him and trying to break down his resistance. And Dr. Samaja really don't. No, the good thing is that he recognized that. So how many other men are in those situations? And women, every now and then we hear about the situations with women too. And they don't reach out to somebody asking for help. What will happen is that they will act on the behavior. So that these things, we really have to make it easy for people to get help, to talk to somebody, to reach out and say, listen, help is possible.
Claudette, I want to come back to you on this to tell us frankly, is it that the society has gone to a level that these behaviors, these deviant behaviors, these types of behaviors that we see, this Ramgo type of behavior, is it now normalized? Is that where the society
almost?
I think we're at the point it's almost normalized.
Almost. I mean, we had a parent.
Claudette, you're right.
We had a parenting group, and I'm saying to the parents, come on, man, this are one. And other things that we have seen from our work in the communities. What are you doing about it? No, miss, that never thing to do with we. How come? You have a girl child, what happened? Suppose it's what? No, miss, me keep my girl pick me under my arm. You know? So it is almost, it is acceptable. In some communities, it is hush-hush. And if it is incest, you're going to shame the family so nobody now talk, and anybody who talk, them in a problem.
Well, there is a sense like him that a lot of things which are undesirable have been feeding themselves into the Jamaican society. For example, the sense that people have a high tolerance of nastiness on the streets, throwing garbage on the streets anywhere. There's something pretty new in Jamaican society. There's a sense of people accepting corruption around them. And we're not talking about way up at the higher levels. We're talking about around them in their activities, in their day-to-day activities with institutions that they deal with. Is it a time now for somebody to break out, Dr. Samaj, a values and attitudes campaign, which also deals with sexuality?
You know, what bothers me about that, is that when it was first identified and it never got off the ground, but at every junction, people are saying, but we really should have, we really should have. But so it has to be done, because guess what? I do a lot of work with companies, all right? Let me just share something with you, a line that I remind companies of, and you can look at the nation soon. A company's culture is not shaped by the values that we have on the wall and so on. It is shaped by the lowest level behavior that management tolerates. You hear me? The lowest behavior that people can get away with and management tolerates. And I remember when I said this at a workshop, and the CEO host and heard me, could you repeat that? I said, yes, that's what shapes the behavior. If somebody can do something and get away with it.
Get away.
And again, that becomes the culture of the organization. So now, the more times these things happen, values and attitudes have to be identified, rewarded, and when people deviate from it, there must be visible admonitions for you to understand that, no, that's not what we do. That's not who we are.
And it must go right through the system, though. It must go right through the system.
And it must be deliberate.
At every level. I did a discussion recently, and I even said, even when I do things that, identifying staff members for organization, hiring and all of that, and I shared a line with the person interviewing me. Many of our most senior people, both in government and private sector, reserve the right to put their thumb on the scale. You understand what I mean? We know what the rule is, but they reserve the right to put their thumb on the scale.
Yes.
So, Jamaica, we have, and we've been, when you have you been to a school barbecue and hear the music?
A dance.
No, let's call it barbecue still. Huh?
It becomes a dance, though.
And hear the music being played there.
A dance.
Many years ago, my son, who is again, he does party promotion now, and he's big in the entertainment business. When he was in fourth form at Campion, he started a thing called Party Kids, and he would create, have parties for between 14 and 17-year-olds and so on. And the first one, when he contracted the 3 top DJs and thing, and they had to meet us at a particular place to get their deposit and to sign their contract. So what kind of contract you talk about? Would win business. And my son put in the contract says that any song that can't be played on the radio can't play because it's children party.
Brilliant.
Yes.
The man that,
Yes.
what do you mean? If it can't, simply, if it can't play on the radio,
Yes.
it can't play there because it is for children. And my thing is that any song a child can't sing it in front of their grandmother. Granny, hear the new song? That song should not even be anywhere within the context of that. So look at what we have been doing with the children. Look how we have sexualized them and so on.
Oh, yes.
So that we really have to start pushing back. And when you said you fight against the culture, you fight against the culture.
You should.
So that's the bigger picture that we have to do. Yes, the tip of the iceberg. We talked about a couple of children who have been killed, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, who have been sexually molested, and it's still going on.
I want to come back to you on the same issue that we're talking there about. the values and attitudes. What's your position on that? Where should we go with that?
Boy, I mean, we have to start at home. We have to start at the lowest level. We have to start in the communities. Yeah? We have to start in the schools. We have to really
We have any
start.
structure in Jamaica now that can do it? That can
Boy,
begin that work? Like him says, everybody should start where they are. But do we have any structures in the Jamaican society that can
I think we do, because look,
help in that change, transformation?
I was saying that, look, home is the first school and parents are the first teachers.
capacity.
Everything extra is extra lesson, right? We have a National Parent Teacher Association now, So we have a mechanism that we can connect with parents. Because
in a way, sorry, sir, but in a way, yes. But the parents I'm meeting on the ground, them need Jesus and olive oil.
and the 12 disciples.
Yeah? Parents are meeting on the ground. Them, look here now. Look here now.
Yes.
Because a little music, no, broke out music, And them I tell the picnic for wine. Wine now? Sure, oh, you
Yes.
wine. Wine
Yes. Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
really? So, I mean, parenting need attention, serious attention. And I mean, we really need to go back to the grassroots level where we're doing the community work and we're helping the community to understand values and attitudes and taking care of our children.
Frankly, I want to come in here because once you mention the values and attitudes program, I am speaking as someone who was a part of that under Dr. Heather Little White. She was the convener. And one very good thing that was done is that they did not try to invent values and attitudes. What they did, that is how I became a part of it. What they did, they looked around for things that are good and can be replicated. I had a project called Project Footprints. I didn't even know how I got there, but JIS had a program where all these programs that were worth emulating, they made sure to document those and help. A lot of work went on with that. It was non-partisan. I was there as an OP. There was JLP, PNP, and as I said, I was there as an OP. And you had pastors, different kinds of persons coming together, trying to make sure that at least the values that we hold dear, they are such that the nation can look at. What do we really value when we talk about values and attitude? Do we value life as we say we do? Are some people for dead and some for live? What are our real values?
Well, with that rhetorical, I want to go back onto. I want to go back onto and ask you and our two guests this particular question about jungle justice. We know the father, the interview we were hearing, that little piece of the interview we saw, we didn't get onto the part where he spoke about the fact that there was that community had lacked justice for a long time. And even now he was saying people can't get to do what they would like, carry out their own justice. Now, Dr. Samaj, is that just part of the violence so close to the surface of this society? Can there be any understanding of what people feel out there? Should we have any time for any understanding of it, or should we just condemn it? And I'm going to ask Joshua now to play us from comments from children's advocate Diane Gordon Harrison, speaking to the issue of Troy and this business of jungle justice.
While the anger and anguish surrounding this tragedy are understandable, Jungle justice is never the answer, and we don't support it. Those who are responsible for crimes against children must be brought to justice through investigation and the lawful processes of the courts. In Shani's case, we express our deepest condolences to her family, and we stand resolute as an office when we say that a child cannot consent to sexual activity with an adult. This is inappropriate, and we do not condone it in any way. Shani deserved to be safe. She deserved the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to fulfill her potential. This tragedy must strengthen our national resolve to identify threats against children, report suspected abuse, and intervene before another child's life is taken.
Thanks, Joshua. And we're going to come back to that same audio in a little while. But Dr. Samaj, give me your response to that. I'm going to come to Claudette Pass on it.
Yeah,
as well.
I am totally against the concept of jungle justice. Now, I am so careful that even no matter how heinous the crime is, once it's being discussed and I'm on a program discuss it, I point out that, listen, newspaper report is not evidence. Evidence has to be tested. We are not in a situation where a court, it is in a context of where a jury or a judge.
While the anger and anguish,
right? But the whole notion where somebody sent me a video of a man being beaten in a community with a machete because he was accused of raping. And he was being beaten severely and so on. I believe that two wrongs don't make a right, you know? And there are so many times when it's the wrong person. Even if it's the right person, none of us have that authority.
No.
I remind people.
But do you understand why people feel that outpouring of anger?
Yes, we understand it, but we have to make sure, we have to stand up and explain to them that in a state, we live in a state, there's a sociopolitical depth of a state. The state has a monopoly on violence. Franklin, if you and I have a dispute, I can't just come down and shot you 2 bucks and so on. If I do that, you can sue me, you can have me arrested, and there's somebody that adjudicates the difference. Nobody has the right to take it upon themselves. I am going to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And that is part of the values that we have to help people to understand. That with what you have to do, yes, if you can stop something, if you can, well, something called a citizen's arrest, and then you can turn the person over to the lawful authorities. Nobody has the right to don't even get to execute, but to administer punishment, that you will give my good beating first and so on. No. We understand.
Claudette, what do you find in the communities? How do people respond to that?
It's hard to get them to listen. And that is why I think the prevention piece is so important. Yeah, when our convicts come from prison, there needs to be a monitoring system, especially in cases like these. There must be a monitoring system, because other than that, we're going to be in trouble. At the grassroots ground level, nobody listens to you when they get to this stage. Yeah, and it is always a lot of venom, and if you're not careful, the venom turn on you, who trying to cry for peace and trying to get them to understand. So that is why in our case, children first talk about these scenarios before them happen. We make them all role play some of the situations. If this is happening in your community, how do you deal with it? What is the right way to deal with it? Because as Sir Simad says, a lot of cases, I mean, I have worked in the prisons, And a lot of time is the done and is the wrong man. But because you are a weakling or you have a little mental disorder, they push you up front. And you get the beating and you get the whatever. So they are not always right. And no matter which side we look at it, upside down, in a square, in a triangle, it is not right. And no one have the authority to take the situation in their hands like that.
But do you understand why they feel that way, or why the mob just takes off in a situation like this one, where the man accused was just beaten to death?
Yeah, but you have to control yourself too, you know. Because if you don't mind sharp, you said the wrong thing in the heat of the moment when everything flying, the emotions high. So you really have to take control of yourself and the situation and help them to understand that it's police business this. Because if you don't mind sharp, you get in trouble too.
I think what will happen is that the fact that we're having more cameras now available in the society.
Oh, yes.
A number of persons who, you see, mob mentality, once it take over, there's something called diminished personal responsibility. There are many things that people do in the context of mob they wouldn't do individually. But what I mean in the mob mentality, personal responsibility is now diminished. So if there's 10 people,
yes,
you only have 110. If it's 100 people, so that you will now have this kind of bravery. There's a classic study in psychology that talks about Kitty Genovese in New York, where somebody was being ultimately murdered on the street, and nobody gave a hand because there were so many people around seeing. So the whole responsibility was totally diminished. Right? So nobody. And it's the same thing. Part of what I do not take part in anything in Jamaica, any large scale gathering. You hear me? The last time I went to some of the stadium was when I was at high school with the Manning Cup match, because crowd control, we don't know anything about crowd control.
Absolutely right.
And what can happen when a crowd, if something just happened and so on. So what I think will happen, some of these mob behaviors will be caught on camera. Clear. Because look, Jamaicans are perfect. If something happen, everybody take out them camera and start shoot video. And we will now see on video exactly who were the people who were involved, and the law will take its course.
Hopefully.
But again, I have to take to the point that these mob killings have been going on for years. At one time, I was following them and how the police investigate them or would not investigate them, and going on for years, and they've just been happening and over again. And people must know in a small community who are the people who are involved in these things. But the police don't really seriously, in many cases, as in this case, go after them. In this case, at least one person was arrested. But what about all of those people? One knowing the other, knowing the other. People go home and talk. I get a kick off of him. I get a lick off of him. What we have had the tolerance again to mob killings. We had tolerance. A young lady was missing in St. Thomas about 2 years ago, and then found there. And they beat up a guy who could not even be involved with it.
The case with Davian Bryan. Davian Bryan, they were looking for Davian Bryan, who had abducted 2 girls. And thankfully they were found, and they ended up killing someone who had nothing to do with it. They mistook him for Davian. Yes. So
again, like I'm talking about the tolerance, the high levels of tolerance for these things that they go on. And we say, I mean, you both August today are saying, and I strongly believe I'm against it as well. Well, we must stand against mob violence, but so many people believe in it.
Again,
It's
you
not.
we have serious cultural problems in Jamaica, and that's one of it. Now, look, I've said in the past that if I actually some years ago I indicated that two issues. If any corporation, any entity will tell me that they would provide me with funding for me to put two things in place, I'm guaranteed that these two things will help transform Jamaica. One is anger management and problem solving ability. Anger management, because
Mr. Claudia shaking her head and nodding her head in agreement.
It's that word anger is one letter away from the word danger.
Dark.
Anything that you do under anger.
Yes.
What is it that triggers that anger? And the other thing is problem-solving behavior. Now, a lot of Jamaicans do not know how to direct anger, how to subside, and how to solve problems. We resort to violence, male physical violence. With all due respect, ladies, emotional or verbal violence.
Yes, man.
That's how we settle disputes.
Yeah, and
in any domestic situation, now domestic violence, it's the combination thereof.
Both.
So the man is accused of physical violence, but nobody talks about the emotional and the verbal violence. That was part of the process. So those, and I say it again on your program, anybody who will help, who will provide me with resources, I can create a program that tackle those two things, anger management and the other problem-solving behavior.
And if I saw you nodding your head, you wanted to say something there?
Just a few weeks ago, I was working with some parents, and they had a dispute, and one of the parents, she wouldn't listen. She had to ask one of the team members to put her outside, and she said, "Look at now, me illiterate and dark, I can't read, so me don't know when Miss Little tell me about reasoning. Me don't know nothing about reasoning. Me can't calculate, me can't reason." And she went on and on. Moreover, my friend them there. You think me want my friend them to see girl overthrow me? So you understand the call is a part of the culture thing that too, because you get boots up.
Yes.
And you get a hype from your friends being there, and you can't look like you soft. So the variables are so many. Boy, I don't know.
Oh, we have some problems like him. We do have some problems. I'm going to read you a note that came in from one of our viewers on my phone. It says, "I believe in straight is dealing with the jungle justice issues and justice in general. I believe in straight execution for murder. That is more cost effective.
That's where
it costs the Jamaican taxpayer approximately $15,000 a year to keep a healthy prisoner." And he was saying, do the math and so forth. In other words,
Franklin, I have a solid respect for the rule of law. Let me tell you why. I have two daughters who are lawyers, and one of my daughters is a Supreme Court judge in New York. So that I have been through legal education twice. When you raise it,
Yes,
and
you have to follow it with them.
Absolutely. This thing called the rule of law, it is what preserves a society. Once we don't have the rule of law, dog nyam with supper and with breakfast next morning. So that I'm not even going down the road in nobody. I mean, with that, there's so many examples where the wrong person, the testimony, something went wrong in the trial. And that's one issue about, corporal punishment.
Oh, Lord, a lot of them, man. A lot of them, like, lots of cases like that.
And the whole issue about, hanging and execution, the finality of it. And there's so many things that have been overturned because somebody lied. Yeah, somebody falsified it. So that, it's part of raising the level of the culture.
Socialization.
Exactly. And that's why we talk about
Yes.
problem solving and anger management to help to raise the level of how we. Oh, can we add one more piece to it? You know, the whole critical thinking. There's something, we know the things that are missing in this culture.
That's
Okay, I want to. We're coming to the end now, and I want to. I think it's important for me to get a little bit about Lekan Samaj and what he's doing now. Some interesting work on Claudette Pass, who is also doing work in communities. But I'm going to ask Joshua, you had put up on the screen a while ago, Priscilla doing it. Yeah, thank you. And I just want to, everybody can read that, but Priscilla doing it is director and spokesperson of Hear the Children's Cry. And she said, in the context of this latest murder, rape, we have become an anti-child society in more ways than one. When it's not rape or sexual assault, it's murder or both. Effectively robbing our children of their innocence and in many cases their lives. Our youngsters are at risk of violence at home, at risk in public spaces, and at risk at school.
Amen.
Sterling said, and those are just truths. So, Dr. Samaj, I was reading something from you recently. Tell us in 2 minutes, or in less than 2 minutes, please, what you're doing now on this mind spa that you have running.
I started about 2 years ago, where I decided to let's use social media as a developmental tool, as a transformational tool, not just as, I would say the vast majority of the stuff you see out there, it is titillation. And so I decided to enter that space too. Each day I write a long form article dealing with a critical aspect of psychological, social, national behavior. But then I boil it down by reverse engineering into reels, stories, visuals, so that persons can consume it in smaller quantities.
And where do we get that? Where do people get that?
Well, primarily, first of all, my website is mindspa.com.
Mindspa.com.
Mindspa.com. But Facebook is the predominant. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. As the two main, because Jamaica, those are the two main platforms.
Yes.
I'm on Twitter. I mean, I'm also literally, I also put every day I post videos on TikTok because, and the amount of persons who see these little videos. So I am putting things in the same space where people are getting their foolishness.
The titillation, yes.
But I am up to 800,000 views in a 28-day period. So that
800,000.
800,000
Fabulous.
views in a 28-day period. 45% are from outside of Jamaica, over 70 countries. The diaspora, first of all, US, Canada, UK. But then now Jamaica has a nice 45%. But then as far as China and so, but there are people who want quality information. But so, for example,
I don't even have the time. I didn't see the time was going with us so fast. And I wanted to talk about one you had in particular, but I have to ask Claudette Pius. And Claudette Pius, tell us a little bit about your work there. You have less than a minute. You have a minute. Your work, especially, you go ahead.
As you know, Melissa came, and with Melissa, we have been doing some interesting work in the West. We're working in St. Elizabeth, St. James. We have now added Trelawny. We've also done some work with UNICEF, really looking at psychosocial support for our children and creating child-friendly spaces, working as well with the parents and the wider community. But we find that we need to expand that and get the duty bearers and the government agencies on. So we are in phase 2 where we are working now with the duty bearers.
And that's children first.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We want to thank you. We want to thank you very much. That's our show for today. Special thanks to our guest, Claudette Richardson Piles, head of Children First, and Dr. Lekem Samad, psychologist and communicator. I beg you, go to mindspace.com. It has some really
Mindspa.
Sorry.
Mindspace.com.
Go again.
SamajMindspa.com.
All right, beautiful. Okay, thanks to Winnie Anderson Brown and to Joshua Black Media Services for graphics and co-production. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Please like and share the podcast. Remember, you can watch it at any time by using the same link or going to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast channel. Episode 219, this one is. On behalf of all of us, I'm Franklin McKnight, thanking you. Until then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Joshua, where's our song? There you go.
The lights go up, the mics are lit. We're feeling that energy, that Sunday drive. Whether you're here while the clock is ticking or catching the replay, the plot is thickening. From the very first word to the final thought, you're the reason for every battle we fought. Oh, to our zealots, the ones who stay, and our viewers watching from miles away. If you live in the chat or on a late night screen, you're the heartbeat of the Frankly Speaking scene. We see you, we hear you, we appreciate the love. You're the spark we're always thinking of.